Well, as you can see, in case you didn't notice, I'm not Dr. Hill. So, I was asked if I could step in real quick, and last night we put together a few things, and here we are. You're welcome. I haven't even run through this real quick. I only have 20 minutes. It'll be fast. I've never looked at these slides, so I try and figure out the slides, but how to look at the presentation slide to slide and data. So if you find myself getting lost, it's because I'm learning as we go here. What I'm trying to talk about today is the disruption of traditional medicine through our personal prevention. Basically what we just talked about. Personal empowerment. The fact that everyone should be able to leave here today, take upon themselves the responsibility and ownership of our own care. That's the hope. We've seen on these two logos on the same page before that Dave Sterling holds the vision that doTERRA will one day be a household name just like Apple. And I really believe that, by the way. I believe that is true. I'd like to explore that in the context of our healthcare system. And are we, doTERRA, perhaps like Apple in our innovation? And how does that relate to our healthcare? One of Steve Jobs' favorite books, and one that deeply influenced the late Apple CEO, was The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen. Has anyone read that book? Okay, well, the 7 of you that have, you should go read. It's a phenomenal book. It talks about disruption in our lives, in technology, in medicine. Clayton Christensen happens to be somebody that I know. He's a wonderful man and deeply admire. He's a renowned Harvard professor and one of the most sought-after individuals when it comes to speaking to institutions on how to adjust for change. The Innovator's Dilemma, Clayton Christensen believes that technology drives and disrupts our culture, including our consumer behavior, business, and not the other way around. Meaning what we do here at doTERRA, the things that we do to change and disrupt, though they're hard, are what changes our society. Technology in this sense is not about gadgets. It is about any new tools, offering new functionality, reliability, convenience, and cost efficiencies. Now, a very simple example of this is seen in the music industry. We had those of us who are old enough to have these, we have our audio tapes, and they contained music, which we thought were so great, and we could make our playlist, and then a few days later, CDs come over and take over, and now we really don't have anything, it's all digital. That's an example of innovation, the change in general. But what about healthcare? Can this also happen here, and what might doTERRA do to fit in this context? In another one of Clayton's books, The Innovator's Prescription, where he looks at healthcare through the lens of disruption, he concludes that the traditional general hospital is not a viable business model. That is a huge statement. In general, what that means, just as we mentioned, we are saying, and Clayton Christensen is reporting, that our hospital system is broken. It's functionally broken, at least within the United States. The average healthcare spending per capita in this country is climbing and far exceeds other countries. The hospitals are often not profitable. Our waiting rooms, as you know, are crowded. And most of the providers are overworked and asked to do a lot. In fact, how many nurses and hospital employees are here? Just how many people would agree that you're asked to do quite a darn lot and you're dang tired by the end of every day? Now, when we talk about disruption in healthcare and in our hospital setting, it's not to imply that the doctors and that the individuals working there are not caring, and that they don't have an incredible desire to keep us healthy. It simply means the system is not set up to do it. So let's equate this to a bit of a hamster problem and the design of the hamster wheel. Our doctors work very hard, and of course all the medical staff. Let's talk about that in general. Sorry about that, not just the doctors, but all medical staff. They're working very hard. They're spinning the hamster wheel in an effort to provide care. doing the best they can, day after day, running along, running along. How many of us feel that this represents our healthcare system today? In general. Notice one important thing, though. This is not a reflection on our healthcare providers. They're not doing anything wrong. So when we occasionally feel dissatisfied, disgruntled, we go in and we are frustrated with healthcare, it's not the providers. It's the way the system has been set up. What that means is our system is ripe for innovation. That change is going to have to come for two reasons. First, because the system in itself is breaking. What that means is we're putting more and more funding, more and more effort into something that will consistently fall down. And on the other side, it has to change by us. It will not be changing from the top down, it's going to change from the bottom up. It's our choices, it's our spread of desire, and our assumption of our own responsibilities. So, the innovator's dilemma comes down to this quote, misattributed to Henry Ford, actually. If I'd asked my customers what they wanted, they'd have said a faster horse. Isn't that true for many patients? I mean, really? In mainstream healthcare, patients are looking for an easy answer for relief. And this is where I'm going to kind of call us all on the table. I don't know how many of us are going to leave the convention this week and go home and make the hard choices. We're going to actually say, let's see, who can I call on from our presentations earlier, but our caffeine, and not to point on coffee, but I'm going to because it was hard. We were told that coffee is not something that we should be doing for our adrenal glands. It's a tough choice. There are other tough choices. We need to make a lifestyle change and not look to the system to fix us. We're not looking for a faster horse to get us someplace. We're certainly not looking for a pill to fix the little darn problem in my knee, though I would love to find one, if someone has one. But it's much harder when we have to change our habits, and we have to look inward to make that change. At least it's harder for me. So we stay in the will. We continue to do our bad habits, and we insist that our medical system and our doctors fix us. We seek for their advice. We're asking them, hey, I'm not feeling great. Can you step in and fix me? It's an interesting question. Really what we need to be doing is asking how we can fix ourselves. So I'm a huge fan of supercars. I don't own one. I'd like to own one. How many of us have a tendency, unfortunately, to take something like this, our little supercar, and we end up doing this? We have a little problem, and we grab our duct tape and we wrap it on up. I don't think many of us would really do that per se. Well, somebody did. If it's somebody here, goodness gracious, shame on you. But in general, when we equate something like a supercar to our bodies, how often do we find ourselves running along, masking our problem, putting a smile on our face if we even do that, and duct taping ourselves together? We hold ourselves together, we make it to that next day, the next appointment, and instead what we're really doing is we're avoiding the issues at hand. We're avoiding the things that we can change. That's one of the most powerful things at doTERRA. We are the change we want to see. So I know Dr. Winterton was waiting for this one. So here's Dr. Winterton. He's not aware that that's what he is, but he is. He's our wonderful carpenter. So we go and we see our doctors, and I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but as doctors, we're really well trained to cut, to grab a thing, a problem, and to talk to you about how we can fix that thing. We can cut it out. In fact, this is my world. I'm good at this. In fact, if I had a saw that large, I'd be pretty happy, to be honest. Someone comes in, the easiest thing to do is say, let's cut this open and remove your problem. But the reality is that problem didn't start on the way into my office. The problem did, well, some do, unfortunately, trauma, etc. But usually these things started years and years before you even came in. But you know what I do every day? Is I grab a little tool, I cut something open, and I quickly fix it up, and I put some stitches, and you go home. I haven't solved anything that led you to the reason why you're in the office in the first place. Did you know that just like the doctors having to live by the Hippocratic Oath, it's our ancient, we swear by it oath, we've all heard of it, 98% of the students today are going to swear an oath that they're going to do their best to prevent and serve us as patients. However, in that same oath, there's a portion of it that is the responsibility of us. It is our responsibility. In fact, it's part of the same oath that talks about the fact that it is our obligation to create a healthy and healing lifestyle in our own lives. It is not the doctor's responsibility to follow us home and take care of us. It is ours. So when we want to talk about duct taping ourselves together, it may work for the short term. But on two levels, that's such a shame. Number one, we are with doTERRA. We don't duct tape ourselves together. We live what we say. And the second problem is duct tape's going to fail. It's really good stuff and you can do a lot with it, but eventually if you duct tape yourself together, you're going to fail. The principle of patient rights and responsibility was developed and approved by the National Health Council Board of Directors. There are 6 rights and 4 responsibilities. The top responsibility states, all patients to the extent capable have the responsibility to pursue healthy lifestyles. Patients should pursue healthy lifestyles known to promote positive health results, such as proper diet and nutrition, adequate rest, and regular exercise. Okay, so show of hands, and we're going to be honest in here. How many people sleep between 6 and 8 hours a night? I can't see your hands, but we'll just pretend I can't. 6 and 8, we're good? Okay, how many sleep between, by the way, that's really a good number. I'll tell you why in a second. How many sleep between 8 and 10? Look at the owners. Not one hand went up, by the way. I'm waiting to see where their hands are. Everyone look at the owners on the next question. How many sleep between anywhere between 4 up to 6 hours on a given night? Okay. President Sterling. So everyone loves Dave Sterling, but unfortunately, according to studies from Emory and Harvard, Dave is now going to go home with his wife. He's going to give him a hug and say, honey, you're now going to sleep between 6 and 8 hours every night. The reason is, if you're sleeping less than 6 hours a night, you're 2 times as prone to having a heart attack and dying very soon. At least in the next 20 years. I don't know if he's coming up to knock me out or what just happened there. He's going to go tell his wife he loves her. He went to bed. Oh, good. Okay. In 2000, see, I have a hard problem. I'm like a shotgun speaker. I'm not like a bullet. Where, like, give me a target and you fly, I just go all over the place. And it's a little bit more fun, but I'm not sure I cover anything. In 2009, thank you. In 2009, Time Magazine cover story addressed the question of how to not end up in the hospital. This should be a question we should like put on the front of our fridge. You know, one of our little, our vision boards that we are so good at creating, right? How about we have one that says, don't end up in the hospital? It's a pretty good goal, really. The entire article, I'll sum it up for you. You don't have to go home and read it. It's very exciting. As you might be thinking, it's all about prevention. In other words, find those things we're doing that we shouldn't be doing and stop it. Focus on the things that we can control. So again, whose responsibility is keeping us out of the hospital? It's ours. Now we can go back and tell our doctors we love them and we're happy to see them for the few things that we need to be doing occasionally, but because we're going to be perfectly healthy from now on, we probably won't need to see them as much. So revisiting the concept of disruption. So remember, that's what this is about. We are trying to disrupt our healthcare system globally. We're going to sell the hamster wheel. Let's get rid of it. I'm sure you could find one on Craigslist for like $1. According to Clayton Christensen, many of the most powerful innovations that disrupted other industries did so, and this is very important because this is us. They did so by enabling, I have to read it because I'm quoting, I'm sorry. They did so by enabling a larger population of less skilled people to do in a more convenient, less expensive setting things that historically could be performed only by expensive specialists in centralized, inconvenient locations. Does that hit home what we're talking about? We are becoming the healthcare provider system. That's what he's saying. In order for this to change and to innovate, we become the healthcare system. We're moving up the rung. So next year, some of you can sit up here and I will sit down there. Be much more comfortable. So on this slide, so here's what we just talked about. I have to fly through this quickly. I apologize to click through. Notice how it clicks through from top left to bottom right. We still need our doctors. We always will. As specialist physicians continue to concentrate on curing the most incurable of illnesses for the sickest of patients, less skilled practitioners could take on more complex roles than they are currently being allowed to do. Already, a host of over-the-counter drugs allow patients to self-prescribe. Things that once were only doctor-prescribed. You can go to the pharmacy and get things that we could never get before. Nurse practitioners are capable, all the nurses in here are going to love this, nurse practitioners are capable of treating many ailments that used to require physicians' care. In fact, I don't know how many of you go to your doctor and actually see your doctor. In fact, I don't remember the last time I went to a location and actually saw my doctor. I always see my nurse. In fact, I should just call it my doctor nurse practitioner. So, I'll just skip one slide because I'm running out of time. I'm passionate about our wellness model. Everyone uses the wellness model. I'm passionate about it because it is what will keep us healthy. It is what should be driving us here every single day. Because of the pyramid, in conjunction with my absolute favorite thing at doTERRA, I know we're talking about essential oils constantly, but we should literally live by talking about our lifelong vitality supplement. It's a core of what keeps us healthy and strong. If all of us pledge today to eat right, to think right, and to feel healthy, we are going to be a much more empowered society. I shared with you yesterday a topic about epigenetics. I don't have much time to get into the genetics of it, but in short, this is the capacity for us to think, to believe, to be strong and healthy, and allow that to modify our genetic code. 70% of what we are and who we are is changeable. That is the direct ability to take your genetic code, the helix within us, and as we change our behaviors, that will cause an expression of that genetic makeup in a way that is productive for us. We have a choice. We have a choice that we have to live by. We have to decide how we're going to eat, decide how we're going to exercise. We have to find an environment that's safe and healthy. If you're not in a safe environment, find a safe environment. If it's not a healthy environment, choose a healthier environment. One of my most prized parts of advice, medically speaking and personal, is our spiritual understanding. We have got to have a spiritual knowledge of something that's greater than us. We have to be willing to let go of those things that burden us. Our backpacks are filled with junk. Everyone in here has a junk in their backpack that you have to carry around, and it stinks. It is so wonderful when you can take that out of your backpack, let it go. Forgive yourself, forgive someone else. Recognize a higher power. And on the note of a higher power, I apologize, but the next slide says we need to eat crap. Of course, it's not really bad, but we need to eat right. What? Go back? I'm not sure I know how to do that, actually. Am I going to mess this up? Well, I'd like to have gone back, but I can't. I did? What am I looking at? Are you guys on a different slide than I am? Yeah, let me look at your monitor. This is great. Okay. I've got to end. Let me end with a bang here. We're going to end on hope. It's one of my probably the most important things to me personally. I believe that the reason why we're here, and I believe, notice I'm lowering my voice because it makes it more dramatic. But truly, I believe the reason we're here is because either we have to find hope for ourselves in our own lives. We've had something that's knocked us down. We've had something that breaks you. And you got to find a way to kind of climb your way back up. I don't care who you are. At some point it's going to happen. And it stinks. But when you surround yourselves with people that have the capacity to give you hope, that's something you can impart and give to others. That is what doTERRA offers. That's what doTERRA is doing with its products. It's an absolute privilege to be here today. And I just want to tell you how thankful I am for the hope that I have in my own life, the hope for my family and my kids, and it's a true pleasure. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage, Dr. Paul Winterton.
I'll do it for you. Baby, I'm not moving on. I'll love you long after you're gone. For you. You will never see me alone.
Well, this is almost as fun as surgery. I'm so grateful to be here. This is shocking to be involved with something like this. So shout out to the conventionaires and our executive committee, and of course the great folks who started things rolling 7 years ago. Bravo, great job. And if Rob Pappas can talk about his wife, so can I. So, my wife of 26 years is here. That's a little doghouse insurance. So once again, it's a great, distinct honor and pleasure and privilege to stand here before you this morning. I'm sure you'll agree that coming to this convention, enjoying this great fellowship, rubbing shoulders with like-minded essential oil enthusiasts is like coming in from the storm into a warm, cozy room. That's pretty touchy-feely for an orthopedic surgeon, I'll tell you. Many of you share the belief and conviction that life can be lived with greater vitality and energy through making healthy lifestyle choices. And my talk dovetails nicely with Dr. Stoyer's talk. The scientific data is clear, and healthcare literature reports unequivocally that 85% of all pathology and illness that ails the human experience can be managed and prevented through lifestyle choices. Proper nutrition, exercise, and appropriate attention to personal needs of emotional and spiritual connectedness makes all the difference regarding our overall well-being. And as traditional medicine has evolved, we've made great strides in both effectively diagnosing problems and treating problems through appropriate medicinal and sometimes surgical modalities. And frankly, we've enjoyed good to excellent outcomes. Here's something that you may have all experienced, I'm sure. While perusing daytime television, we've all observed the advertisements that attempt to gain our favor with specific medications. Of greatest interest to us all is the list of warnings and side effects. Who's seen those? As a surgeon, I'm greatly concerned about post-surgical complications, first and foremost, either as a direct result of the surgery itself that I perform, but just as important, the adverse side effects from the post-operative medications. We talked about modern medicine, how it's at a critical crossroads and faces many difficult challenges. Along with skyrocketing deductibles, the financial costs of providing health care for our families is becoming virtually unaffordable. And as financial well-being is directly linked to our physical, emotional, and mental well-being, we're literally becoming sicker as a nation in America and abroad. Greater than 75% of the American populace have no savings for emergencies and simply don't have means to pay for expensive doctor's visits, treatments, or surgery. These financial realities are what drive many of us here today towards alternatives that assist us in home therapy. Furthermore, yes, pharmaceutical research and development has produced potent, effective medications. However, the side effects of such designer potency is completely unacceptable. Many of our modern pharmaceuticals are indeed phytotherapeutic. That is to say, variations of particular chemicals present in plants. They've been isolated and altered as single molecules to interact or attach to certain cells or end organs. Our criticism here today with such designer processes would be the abandonment of the other chemical constituents that coexisted with these isolates for thousands of years. Yes, medicines taken by mouth are an effective way to deliver chemicals to target body parts. However, orally administered pharmaceuticals sometimes deliver toxic concentrations, inadvertently damaging parts of the body that aren't intentionally targeted. In the world of musculoskeletal medicine, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medications, also known as NSAIDs, have been liberally prescribed for pain. Unfortunately, the small blood vessels of the kidney and sensitive lining of the upper gastrointestinal tract are ravaged by these medications. We've recently uncovered a clear correlation with end-stage kidney disease and chronic exposure to high concentrations of NSAIDs. I hope that's astonishing to everyone. Kidney failure, also known as renal insufficiency, often leads to the necessity of regular dialysis. That's a big deal. Likewise, for years, we've known about NSAID-associated life-threatening stomach bleeds. Well, as I mentioned at the physician panel, by the way, how about that physician panel? Great colleagues. Necessity is indeed the mother of invention. We are by necessity moving aggressively, not only here in the complementary alternative world, but within the allopathic medical world, moving aggressively toward topically applied analgesics with both FDA approved and complementary alternative options. In the case of knee or lower back pain, applying medicine topically can deliver effective levels of pharmaceuticals, thus preventing the systemic toxic levels of drug. I talked about this during the physician panel earlier. To briefly recap what I said, I've been providing creative custom compounding, or as I put it, and as I've coined the term, the 3 C's for my patients. I've successfully been able to incorporate essential oils as additives to FDA-approved pain creams the most insurance companies already cover. Finally, the ravages of prescription narcotic abuse in our communities has reached endemic levels, which makes these benign topical pain compounds even more attractive. Just if you were with me this morning at 3 a.m., getting calls from the emergency room of some of my patients that have struggled with addiction. Those of us in the orthopedic surgery community utilize the potency of opioids to control postoperative pain. Sometimes we have to use them. Most of the time, post-surgically, we have to use them. However, many of my patients secondarily become dependent on the euphoric side effects. The tsunami of medical and social complications from such addictions are devastating to the well-being of our patients and families. It's a great irony, isn't it, that the great giant of modern medicine is so vulnerable to notable and devastating frailties. Whether you live or work in the modern world of medicine or simply depend on this grand system for your medical needs, we're all moving inexorably toward horizons that depends less on such designer medications and rely on logic and nature to manage your individual family's healthcare needs. Perhaps our greatest fear in the world of orthopedics is infection and total joint replacement. Indeed, any man-made implant, whether it be made of metal and plastic, can be colonized by bacteria. And following attachment and replication, these colonies form a protective film that is virtually impenetrable to our body's natural defenses or man-made antibiotics. These are incurable infections. Bacterial biofilm and colony-forming behavior is currently the major driving force in microbiological research today. These devastating limb and life-threatening infections strike fear in all subspecialties, not just orthopedics. Cardiology, urology, ear, nose, and throat, oral, maxillofacial, and internal medicine all struggle with this issue. Many recent studies not only suggest, but strongly implicate the chemical constituents of essential oils as possible agents that not only break down bacterial biofilm once they form, but also can prevent its actual formation. And this is incredibly exciting. We're talking Nobel Prize material here. No. Why is such a difficult concept for, why is this idea such a difficult concept for our critics to grasp? These plants not only exist, but thrive in the most hostile natural and microbiological environments. Harnessing the natural preventive and protective capacity of essential oils is what turns our wheels, either as lay public or who watch over our families at home, or medical professionals that care about our patients. Many of us here today are counted among the ranks of baby boomers, meaning those that were born between the years 1948 and 1965. Just turned 50, very difficult birthday for yours truly. This roughly represents the ages between about 49 to 68. During that small window of time, many of us, baby boomers, have matured into adulthood, observing the development and maturation of our modern medical world. The pharmaceutical industry has exploded before our eyes, and hospital and healthcare institutions seem to be on every corner. We've witnessed the evolution of the intensive care units and level 1 trauma centers. Many of us have realized that these great medical institutions don't always have the solutions to some of our most intimate medical needs. We've come to understand the principle that just because we can doesn't necessarily mean that we should. The great giant, our modern medical system indeed has frailties. We baby boomers have enjoyed the benefits of observing and learning from our parents as they transition from functional adults to elderly dependents. We've benefited from the availability of hospice care with its humane, minimalist approach. I didn't do this during rehearsal. It's been a year and a half since I said goodbye to my 90-year-old father. All forever. I better not look at the teleprompter here. I'll forever cherish his memory and the last months that I had to spend with him. As he progressed, IV therapy was withdrawn and critical care management quickly transitioned to the simplicity of foot and calf rubs as well as hand and forearm rubs with essential oils. What a lovely part of that process, connecting physically, emotionally, and spiritually with him. And so it is with the loved ones that we all care for and watch over. As families, we eat together, work together, exercise together, and pray together. The discovered realm of essential oils, the yet-to-be-discovered horizons of alternative therapeutic modalities, is an exciting prospect that brings us all here this week. Thank you and bless you all for your shared enthusiasm for what continues to be a very important part of how we take care of ourselves and our families. Best wishes and enjoy the remainder of convention.
Please welcome back to the stage, Rob Young, Executive Vice President, Marketing.
Thank you, Dr. Winterton, Dr. Stoyer, and all the wonderful members of our physicians panel today. What a great group of individuals. Now, I've been asked to introduce our next presenter today, but I want to put this in context. So, if you look at a continuum of the different scientists that we have involved with doTERRA, you just heard today on the practitioner end of that spectrum. On Thursday, if you go to the other end of that continuum, you heard from Dr. Robert Pappas, who is a PhD. He's a doctor. He's a PhD in chemistry, in physical chemistry. Okay? And when we think about essential oils, if we think about Dr. Pappas, his job, and by the way, Dr. Pappas is the best, the brightest, the smartest physical chemical expert when it comes to essential oils in the world, and we're thrilled to have association with Dr. Pappas. And again, on the other end of that continuum, we have our healthcare practitioners. So Dr. Pappas is telling us what makes for the best essential oils in the world, and our wonderful practitioners are saying how we can put those into practice. But as a company, we've stated several times that it's our mission to bridge, build a bridge between essential oils and Western medicine. Well, part of building that bridge is a group of scientists that we call life science scientists. Those are the physiologists and the biochemists that are studying, okay, then why are these things happening, okay? We have wonderful essential oils. We know they have powerful practical benefits in practice, but we then have a group of scientists that are physiologists, biochemists that are coming in and they're studying the chemistry and the reaction in our body to these beautiful plant compounds. Now, they gave me an introduction to read about our following guests. I'm going to read that, but then I'm going to give my own personal introduction. Our next presenter is Dr. Carsten Smit. Dr. Smit has held executive R&D positions for almost 20 years, working for leading global companies in dietary supplement, nutraceutical, and medical food industries. Dr. Smit holds a doctorate degree in nutrition science and physiological chemistry from the University of California at Davis, and he rounds out his impressive experience with superb academic credentials, many scientific publications, and patents. Dr. Smit is a fellow of the American College of Nutrition and is holding memberships in a variety of professional associations, including the American Society for Nutrition and the German Society for Nutrition. Okay, now that I got that out of the way, we didn't want to short Dr. Smit any of his credentials. But let me give you now my personal endorsement and introduction. Dr. Smit is a personal friend of mine. By the way, do we have anybody from Germany here today? All right. Carsten, there's a few. Carsten comes from Germany. And Carsten has a good, healthy dose of German critical thinking and precise engineering in everything he does. And that's good. That's great. But I've been associated with Carsten for over 20 years. In fact, Carsten, Dr. Smit, has had a personal impression on me. And many of the early opinions that I have about nutrition and health were influenced greatly by my daily working association with Carsten. Carsten brings, in addition to his precise engineering, Carsten brings to doTERRA creativity and innovation and truly a vision and a passion when it comes to helping people create this foundational health and take control of their lives through optimal nutrition. Again, when we had the opportunity to invite Carsten to participate in our company, we were hoping maybe there's a chance that we might have some collaborative efforts on some projects. When, through our conversations with him, as we explained what doTERRA was, where we were going in the future, we both recognized that there would be a place, an important place, of Dr. Smit in our future. And I need to tell you, we are so fortunate. If you're in the nutritional industry, you know who Carsten Smit is. And he has joined us, and I'd like to welcome to the stage our new Vice President of Research and Product Development and Chief Science Officer at doTERRA, Dr. Carsten Smit.
Good morning, doTERRA. Now I also have to say something very nice about Rob Young. As you just heard, I have the pleasure of working with Rob Young on and off for about 20 years. And I have also worked with lots of marketing professionals during my career. And I've worked with hundreds of them. And Rob Young is very special. Rob Young is the best marketing professional I've ever met in my life, honestly. And what's special about Rob is that he not only understands the science, but he respects it. And when you respect the science as a marketing professional, and you work with scientists, you really get the best out of everything. You get a very honest and a very grounded approach to product marketing. No hype, just perfect marketing to get the best messages across. And Rob is extremely creative in doing just that. Thank you, Rob. Okay, now, hands up. Who's been with doTERRA 3 months or less? There are a few. All right, did you see my hand is up? I've been with doTERRA pretty much exactly 3 months to the day today. And I would really love to get to know all of you here today. But if we do this, I'm afraid they're going to throw me off the stage because I'll be here in a week from now. And I think this venue is booked for something else in a couple of days. Circus, okay. Thanks, Eric. But I thought maybe instead I'll just share a little bit where I came from. Now, I was born and raised in the 60s in a city called Düsseldorf, Germany. It's actually not small, 600,000 people just north of Cologne on the River Rhine. And thank you, it's an industrial city, but it's actually nice, has a very beautiful old town. Now, what I want you to notice though here on this slide is the number of VW Beetles that were on the road back then. So I counted at least 10 here, and that used to be my favorite car. I had one of those. 34 horsepower, maximum speed just barely over 70, and the acceleration from 0 to 60 was not measured in seconds, it was measured in minutes. And I guess back then people must have been a lot more patient than they are today. All right, now here, I apologize for the blurry photo, but that's the best one I could get. These are the 4 Smith children at Grandma's house in the Austrian Alps. And the one on the left, the nerdy one, that's me. And if you take a really good look, some of you will recognize that my older brother and me are wearing lederhosen. Right? And so I actually met a gentleman here from Austria, I think his name is Helmut, who was, I met him here on Wednesday night, who was wearing proudly his lederhosen. And so that's perfect. But I tell you what, the lederhosen were wonderful. They were tough, they were comfortable, and they made you spank resistant. I can tell you many episodes, back then spanking was quite normal. No big deal, especially when you were wearing lederhosen. And my mom used to use the kitchen spoon on us, I remember one episode where the kitchen spoon broke, and I started laughing, and then she had to laugh too, and that was the end of it. So we had a lot of fun with those lederhosen. Now, my dad owned a furniture store in Düsseldorf, and I was really into chemistry when I was 12 years old. I just knew I wanted to do something in science, and chemistry always fascinated me. And by the way, that nerd on this picture is not me. But, here's the thing. My dad let me have a laboratory at the age of 12 in his furniture warehouse. Now, if you think about that, that's pretty crazy. Furniture warehouse, flammable stuff. Laboratory, Bunsen burner, I mean, come on. Luckily, there were no explosions, and I never burned it down. So my dad must have been either extremely tolerant or just ignorant. I never figured it out. So soon after that, my passion of chemistry shifted towards nutritional biochemistry. And that's when I went and left Germany, went to California, and started studying nutrition science at the University of California at Davis. And that's where I also met my beautiful wife, Laurie, and got my PhD in 1990. And here's the thing. I married Laurie the day after my oral PhD dissertation defense. Now, if I think about that today, that's pretty crazy. You know, just imagine I'd failed that. That would have really ruined our wedding. So Laurie also has a PhD in nutrition from UC Davis. And despite that, our kids at home, I would say their diets on a grade from 0 to 10 is maybe a 5. So having parents with PhDs in nutrition doesn't always guarantee. Yeah. But our two sons are in their 20s. One of them is here today. Hi, Kevin. And they're great kids. Now, I spent after that about 24 years in the health and wellness industry, leading R&D organizations, big and small. And now I must say honestly, now that I'm here at doTERRA, I feel I've landed the best job ever. You know, and that's because it really feels like coming home for me. I have known Rob for a long time, and I've known most of the owners for 10 to 15 years. And all of them are stellar individuals. They all have had amazing accomplishments. And this company is lucky to have such great leadership. Between the 7 of them, we have 200 years of professional management experience. And I think that's a big part of the success of this company. Now, they don't really like to be the center of attention all the time, but please, let's hear it for them. Do you think they've done a great job? Thank you, that's how I feel about them. I am extremely happy to be part of doTERRA. Now, you're probably wondering, oops, let's go back one slide. You're probably wondering, what does this guy here know about essential oils? He's a nutritionist, right? So that's a fair question. But let me be frank, many of you here know more about essential oils today than I do. But I have one thing in my defense. I grew up with essential oils in Europe. Now this here is a picture of my late grandmother. This picture was about 10 years old, 2004, when she was 97 years old. And Grandma used essential oils. She always smelled like lavender, and for her arthritis, she used Tyrolean mountain pine essential oils and swore by it. You know, and my mother, she used to put essential oils in the bath water. And back then, no questions asked. They worked. let me digress here for a minute, talking about my grandma and talking about the theme of this convention, aspire. My grandma always said, and this is going to be in German now, wenn man will, kann man alles. Okay, that means if you put your mind to it and you want to and you try, you can do anything and everything. You know, then when we were little kids, we always thought, Grandma, you're just full of it. Do you think I can do miracles? She said, yes. You know, we always went on like that. And look, this here, today, I'm standing in front of the biggest crowd I've ever been speaking to. 18,000 people. And if I had asked Grandma, if that would someday happen to me, she would have said, yes. Wenn man will, kann man alles. Okay, now, let's go back to my script here. When I first arrived 3 months ago at doTERRA, I just get a whiff of essential oils. You know, when you walk into the doTERRA building, don't you get a whiff of oils? So I got that whiff. And then they started rubbing off on me, pun intended. And now I'm internalizing them, literally. You know, I'm a little nervous about this talk, right, when you're standing in front of 18,000 people. So I was worrying last night maybe I couldn't sleep too well. And I just used the balance blend and some cedar wood, worked perfect. Slept really well. But let's take a look at the science. When you're taking a look at the scientific literature, the scientific publications about essential oils, there are about 1 million studies on nutrition and dietary supplements, but only about 20,000 on essential oils. 50 times less. But here's the thing. This graph shows the number of scientific publications on essential oils every year since the mid-1800s. And what you're seeing in the last 10 years, essential oils research has been skyrocketing. So, you need to ask yourself, why can that be? Could it perhaps be that scientists are discovering that they work? Right? You bet they work. In fact, there's some serious research being done these days on essential oils. And here's what I came across recently. These are 2 metabolomic studies. Anybody here know what metabolomic studies are? No, it's a new field. Sorry about that. But I'm going to explain it a little bit. It's a new field of research. I'm going to show you this wonderful slide here. Now, this is a summary of your metabolism. Okay? So there will be a quiz this afternoon. And you got to memorize all that stuff here. Okay, just kidding. There are thousands of biochemical reactions going on all the time as each and every one of us is sitting here inside of our bodies. And those thousands of reactions are producing thousands of metabolites. And these are intermediates or end products of all of these reactions. And these metabolites are just floating around everywhere in your body. They're in your cells, they're in your blood, they're in your urine, they're in your saliva, they're even in your breath. And with the latest technology that's available to us now, we can actually start measuring hundreds of these metabolites simultaneously. That has never been possible. And when you do that, you end up with these chromatograms that you see. There's 3 of them there. And they are basically like the fingerprints you're familiar with essential oils, right? Look pretty close, except each of those little peaks are not chemical components of essential oils. Instead, they are all kinds of these different metabolites that you have floating around in your body. Now, it's basically like a doctor's diagnostic test, like a blood test for blood sugar or cholesterol, except it's supercharged. It measures everything that's there, and not just a few little things. And as you can imagine, those kind of tests are very expensive. And there's only a handful of laboratories in the world that can do these. And one of them is the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And they did these 2 studies that I mentioned earlier. The first one was an animal study, turned out great. The second one was a human study to confirm what was found in animals, because not always do you see the same effect in humans as you observe in animals. So, in this human study, 31 women with anxiety symptoms were recruited. And they were given aromatherapy using an anti-anxiety essential oil blend. And this blend was made from 4 oils that we have here: lavender, clary sage, sandalwood, and wild orange. And the aromatherapy was administered for 45 minutes for 10 days. So, here's what's interesting. 8 of the 10 anxiety symptoms that were measured improved significantly with aromatherapy. Now that's nice result, but you know, this has been shown in a few other studies already. But this here now is where it's getting really interesting. And those are the metabolomic results. 29 out of 215 urinary metabolites changed significantly. And if you're taking a good look at that, the metabolites that changed were very important metabolites. These were not little things. We are talking about amino acids, carbohydrates, and organic acids. So the take-home message from this study for scientists is that aromatherapy with essential oils can have some profound biochemical, metabolic effects in the body that you can measure using hardcore science. It's pretty cool, isn't it? You know, these studies, these kinds of studies, are getting the attention of scientists today. And that's why you see the research skyrocketing. Now, this is not your grandma's science anymore. And we have all experienced the power of essential oils, correct? We are confident that they work. So, let's start showing it to the world. Now, doTERRA is committed to do just that. We are already spending lots of money and budget on research studies today. But we have just decided to really step on the gas when it comes to going forward with clinical research and outside studies. Now, how does that sound? Doubling our clinical research budget. Do you think that's enough? No, it's not. Wasn't enough for me. How about quadrupling it? Okay, I'm getting a lukewarm reception here. Okay, I'm going to be serious now. we are going to invest 10 times more in clinical research. Thank you, thank you. Now, I can't promise anything for next year's convention, but I'm already excited. Okay, but here's now something that I'm even more excited about. And that's how we are growing our research and development department. doTERRA has always been a science-based company. Normally, as companies grow, the R&D department grows as well. But at doTERRA, we are going to make a massive investment in R&D. And why? Because that secures our leadership position, now and in the future. So, what's in it for you? You will get to use even more innovative quality products. You will see even more exciting clinical studies, and ultimately, you will be enjoying even more optimum health for you, your families, and your friends. Okay, now what's in it for me? Well, I will have my hands full, and so will have our R&D department as well. Now, let's shift gears a little bit. Here's our product philosophy. doTERRA, a gift from the earth. What exactly does that mean? Does it mean giving back from the planet what we take? Yep. Okay. Absolutely. Does it mean not using unnatural ingredients? Yes. Does it mean staying away from pesticides and other contaminants? Of course. But great, we're actually missing one that's very, very important. And I want to spend a little bit of time on the whole concept of natural balance. And unfortunately, that's something that most other companies don't even think about. But it's something that we do well here at doTERRA. Now, what exactly does natural balance mean? It means a few things. First of all, and that's the most important one, is that it means using natural usage amounts. Those are the dosages that nature has intended for us. And it's very, very important to use those dosages. If we are starting to use too little or too much, like a mega dose, for example, of something, we are throwing our system off balance. And when that happens, if you do that long enough, we are creating metabolic stress, and ultimately, we're paving the path for disease. So this is very important. More is not always better. That's true for vitamins, it's true for minerals, it's true for herbs and botanicals, it's true for essential oils, it's true for everything, including water. If I were to drink 2 gallons of water right now, you would have to call the ambulance, because I would be going into cardiac failure. So, here's another thing. When I'm going into a health food store looking for a multivitamin, I get really cranky and frustrated. I really do. It's a very unpleasant experience because I can't find one that's balanced for me, or balanced for anybody for that matter. These products that you can buy are thrown together using unnatural ingredients and unnatural amounts of the ingredients. and they are creating, basically long-term, they are creating metabolic stress. It's not a good thing. So I always come out of these stores empty-handed. And here's another thing. I always wondered about that. For the last 20, 30 years, I've been wondering about that. Have you ever seen multivitamins that have the same amount of all B vitamins in there? You know, like 50 milligrams of thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, pyridoxine, 50 micrograms of B12. Any idea why people do that? 50, is that a pretty number? Well, what about using 25? I've seen those too. Well, there's no science here, absolutely no science. There's absolutely no nature, and these products are completely unbalanced. And whoever came up with the idea to put 50 milligrams of everything in a multivitamin really deserves a spanking, I think. And this time without the lederhosen, please. Now, our Microplex VMZ is an excellent product, and it's excellent because we're using natural ingredients that are naturally balanced. And I hope everybody here is using the Lifelong Vitality Pack, right? Are you guys? It's a great product. And as always, we are working very hard to advance the science and always keep our products up to date. So in the future, you can always expect updates, improvements to these products as we learn about new science. So, natural balance means something, very important, that's using the natural usage amount. At doTERRA, we learn from science and nature. We understand that things evolved for a reason. And we use not only the natural forms of actives, but also the natural amounts of active ingredients in our products. And when products are not in natural balance, then you really get into problems. So that's what we believe in. Here's another thing. Natural balance also means using the natural spectrum of actives. And that is something you are all very familiar with. Synergies are lost when we use isolated nutrients or isolated actives. The essential oils are a great example of that. And Dr. Tori Parker, who will be speaking right after me here today, he is passionate about this. Actually, that was the subject of his PhD dissertation. So let me give you the example of ginger essential oil. This is one of those wonderful gastrometograms from Dr. Pappas. And if you look really closely, and you're really, really good, you will see that there are 50 different compounds in here, 50 compounds. And any one alone wouldn't be very effective, right? You agree with me? Even if we take the biggest peak right in the middle, that's zingiberine. That's only 25% of ginger oil. So we would be missing the other 75%. You all understand that very well. I don't need to tell you. We need the full spectrum. Here's an example from nutrition science, vitamin E. There are 8 different forms of vitamin E in nature, and all 8 of them are important and essential. Yet most companies out there only use one, and actually most companies use that one in a synthetic form. We here at doTERRA use all 8 forms in our Microplex VMZ, and they're all natural. Why do we do that? Because we know that when you supplement with only alpha-tocopherol, like most of these other companies do, the other 7 tocopherols and tocotrienols will go down in your tissue, and you have created an imbalance. And these other ones have some important biological functions to carry out that they then no longer can do. Now, those are little details, right? And if you're selling product in a retail store, customers don't care about those details, so they can't even learn about it because all you have to advertise is maybe a TV ad, a newspaper ad, or the shelf space that you have. And here at doTERRA, we do the right thing. These tocotrienols that we put in there are very expensive. We put them in anyway because we don't want to upset your balance. So, at doTERRA, we fully appreciate the gift from the earth. We have a healthy respect for nature. And in fact, nature is our product guide, if you wish. And we use the best of science to prove it. Now, let me end with a quote by Voltaire. And before I do that, I want to apologize to our esteemed physicians panel. And I also want to apologize to all physicians in the audience. The art of medicine consists in amusing the patient while nature cures the disease. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Dr. Tori Parker.
Wasn't Dr. Schmidt wonderful? Thank you. I'm so excited to have him here as a part of doTERRA. Now, if I can share, I'll have just a short time with you this morning, but I just couldn't resist. I spent almost a decade in ballroom dance. And when I come out here on the stage and I see this long pathway, it makes me want to do a little Viennese waltz. Woo! Very exciting. So excited to be with you today. This is a great opportunity. I have the privilege of sharing with you today a couple of the research studies that doTERRA has been involved in this last year. We're expanding, we're doing better, and Dr. Schmidt told us all about the new things that we're going to be doing in the very near future. Research update, beautiful thing. Some of you may remember my presentation from last year. We presented on, thank you, a lifelong vitality pilot study which demonstrated benefits of lifelong vitality in 4 different areas. Less pain, more energy, enhanced immunity, and improved mood. Anyone remember those 4 things? Hope you've been talking about them this year. Lifelong Vitality is a beautiful product. Now, Rebecca Hinsey, who some of you heard from yesterday evening, she did a great job. She was one of our Blue Diamond Wellness advocates, for those of you that don't know. And I had the great privilege, I'm still out of breath from my Viennese waltz, give me a second. Whew. Had the great privilege of working with her in some of the early stages of her master's degree as she moved to the UK to work on that project. Very exciting stuff. She shared all the details, but I wanted to take just a minute and give you an update on our lifelong vitality through her work. Rebecca wanted to focus on a specific question that fit within her degree in the School of Psychology. Could lifelong vitality, a complete, very nutritional supplement, have effects on measures of anxiety, depression, and even stress? She recruited 21 participants who had been diagnosed as having a mood disorder. They were instructed to take Lifelong Vitality for 60 days, as directed. Every week of the study, each participant completed 4 scales that measured various aspects of health, anxiety, depression, and stress. There were significant or near significant results in all 4 of those areas. Very exciting. Here's just one example. The hospital anxiety and depression scale. At the beginning of the study, there were levels started at about 15, if you can see on the graph there. Then, the number steadily dropped until at the end of the 60 days, it was significantly improved in that area. So exciting. I'm so grateful I had the chance to work with Rebecca, and now I should let you know, Rebecca Hinsey, MSc, she just recently completed her master's degree. So very proud of her for that. The next study I'd like to tell you about comes from Idaho. All right, yeah, let's hear it for Idaho. Spyglass Gardens. Any of you from Meridian, perhaps? Spyglass Gardens is an all-natural, community-supported agricultural farm. Stephen Wendy Smith, I met Wendy. He's here at convention. I don't know where she is, but we're excited to have her with us. I met with her on Thursday, and some of the people that came with her, just a wonderful woman and very enthusiastic and excited about her results, so I'm excited to share them with you today. They became wellness advocates in 2011 and came across the idea just this last year about applying essential oils to their crops. Now, they grow a wide variety of food crops and have to deal with bug problems, unfortunately, despite their best efforts in crop management, because they use no pesticides. Now, the worst hit are squash and pumpkins. They've given you lovely pictures of the bugs up there. I know that's exciting. They lost over 75% of their crop last year. I can relate. 7 of the 8 squash and pumpkin plants in my own home garden also died to the same problem. Some of you may understand that. All right, now they learned that, peppermint oil might be able to repel bugs. And so they decided they would try it in a controlled study with lots of good measurements and everything. So that caught my attention, and we were excited to hear about what they did. All right, so how did they do it? Using backpack and pump sprayers, they applied the oil and water mix every week throughout the growing season. They applied it first to a few test rows to make sure that they wouldn't harm the plants, and when it didn't, they sprayed the tops and bottoms of the plants and around the roots. They also checked to make sure that it wouldn't harm the pollination by the bees, and the bees weren't bothered by it either. It was wonderful. All right, that's a picture of some of their squash from this year. Very healthy, very effective. All right, let's look at what they saw. You won't believe this, it's amazing. The quality of doTERRA's peppermint oil meant that they could apply a low dose. Their harvest bounty far outweighed the cost of the essential oil. Even better, the peppermint oil would simply evaporate, leaving no residue in the plant or in the soil like a pesticide might. And so they remained an all-natural garden, yet solved the bug problem. Now we're going to do a little bit more with them this following year, but they had a little peppermint oil left over, and it was helpful against bugs that bothered their potatoes and bugs that bothered their broccoli as well. So we have some exciting things coming next year to get us some more information in this area. All right, moving on. The last study I'd like to present today is some pioneering work with a company called BioSeq. When one of their PhD scientists, his name is Ray Price, he's here with us as well, approached me about doing some work with them, and you'll never guess how he came to know about doTERRA. His wife is a wellness advocate. So he's become a part of that as a result. But he came and contacted me about the opportunity to do some research with his company. Now, this company had previously done work with the pharmaceutical field and worked with individual compounds and had never done work before with the complex chemistry that we find in essential oils. So this was a great opportunity for us to begin to learn a little bit more about how our oils work in complex systems. So let me tell you what I mean by that. Cells talk. We have to have some way of measuring, some way of listening to what they have to say in those complex mixtures. So we measure protein levels that the cells produce and use to talk and communicate with each other and to cause interactions to happen in amongst the different types of cells in the body. Let me show you a picture of what that looks like. Here's an example. Now, they don't just look at one cell type. They don't just say, oh, that essential oil can kill cancer cells, for example, something like that. But we're mixing complex cells to better mimic the real environment that happens inside the body. So in here you can see cancer cells, immune cells, that's what PBMC is there, connective tissue, which are fibroblasts, and endothelial cells, which are blood vessel cells. Okay, so it's one thing that we can measure one cell, but what if other cells are present? How do they talk to each other? How do they influence each other? How does a cancer cell block the immune system from getting rid of it? What changes? So these are the kind of questions that we're trying to ask when we look at these complex interactions in these studies. This company is a great partner for that. So let me give you an example of how that works, and then we'll kind of show you the results. Okay? You look along the bottom, you can see a long list of proteins that we are able to read and measure inside these systems. Okay, the amount that changes is the vertical bar on the left. If it goes up, then you're seeing an increase in that protein. and if it goes down, then you see a decrease. The black line across the middle, or the gray area, represents what happens with a control. And then the red line, or the substance, in our case an essential oil, shows you what is changing or what's happened with it. All right, so let's look at some of our results. We have the first two. I'll share two with you. DDR prime. This one was studied in the presence of cancer, connective tissue, immune cells, and an inflammatory condition. Now in the control, the cancer cells try to block that inflammation to hide their presence. Now what did DDR prime do? You'll notice we have several peaks along the top where that inflammation has been restarted, if you will. So it's helping to restart that recognition of those other cells around it. Okay, here's the second one, On Guard. Okay, with On Guard, we studied in a system without cancer cells, so the inflammation was increased to begin with. In this case, On Guard had a very strong anti-inflammatory response. So in summary, I'll put that all together. These are the first findings of their kind using state-of-the-art modeling and complex systems. Okay, DDR prime stopped the tumor cells from inhibiting an immune response, as well as inhibited angiogenesis. That's another secondary thing we found. And the On Guard had a strong anti-inflammatory response. What does this mean? Well, we're not to the point where we're ready to make any claims or to say anything too much about it, but we want you to know that we know that essential oils work, and we're beginning to understand how they work, and why they're so powerful in your lives. We have lots of things to do. We're looking at this in a complex system, 6 standards of care, 4 different cell environments, more programs, more questions to be answered. I've listed several of those that we want to answer there at the beginning. I'm just so excited to have Dr. Schmidt with us, to be working on these new studies, to have this 10 times the budget we've had in the past, and we're going to go wonderful places. So thank you for the wonderful opportunity to be with you and to share some of the neat results we've had this last year, and I hope you continue to enjoy the morning. Thank you so much.
Please